My name is Jerome Anthony Johnson. I was born December the 5th, 1949, in Newport News, Virginia. I attended Huntington High School there. From there, I went to North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, North Carolina, majoring in art. For personal reasons, I had to leave Greensboro, and that was what brought me into Washington, D.C. I hadn't been in D.C. too long before I decided to try to take a few more courses at Federal City College, which was then known as. I had a very good art experience at Federal City College, but being young and undisciplined and exploring the city quite a bit, I didn't finish at that time. I left D.C. and went back to the Tidewater area, Newport News, and I got very much involved in the arts, not just painting and exhibiting and running culture arts programs, but I also had a dance troupe. I wrote a few plays while I was in the Culture Arts Center and directed them with youth. Exhibited in a lot of shows there and did a few murals there also. At that time, I got married in Virginia, and I had 4 children before deciding to come back to D.C. again. I know there's a lot of hopping around. And I came back to D.C. in 1990. I finished my degree at the University of the District of Columbia, which was a renamed version of the old Federal City College. They had gotten a nice campus and merged with D.C. Teachers College and Washington Tech and became the University of the District of Columbia. So I finished there, and since then, which was 1992, I had 2 more children, so altogether I had 6, which are all grown and gone. I've been teaching off and on in Washington area, Washington and Prince George's County, and even today I'm teaching art on the junior high school level in Prince George's County, Maryland, which is right outside of the district.
Go, and go. Describe the technique that you use as applying to your particular medium.
Okay, my chosen medium is acrylic painting, and I kind of picked that up at Federal City and UDC. We were sort of taught to shy away from the oils, even though we had experienced it in them. And my style kind of evolved. I think I'm a product of my times, where what they call art for art's sake, pretty pictures, flowers, and landscapes and seascapes, and those were considered just art for art's sake. But most African-American artists were somewhat on a mission at that time to promote our culture and to paint messages and things pertaining to liberation and commemorating our history and heritage. So I kind of got caught up in painting that way and expressing what a lot of people would consider black art. I don't consider it black art. It's art from black people, but for everyone. Not always appreciated by everyone, but that's the mission,
What I do know about you is that you have been painting for you have been a budding artist for a very long time. Tell me a little bit about your early exposure to art.
Okay, my first exposure, I was fortunate enough in high school to have, even before high school, I was encouraged in my neighborhood because I exhibited art skills at a very early age, and the rec centers that I went to, they made sure that I got in the newspaper, and I was sort of known in my hometown for being an artist at an extremely early age. And then in high school, I was fortunate enough to have a teacher who exhibited, taught us how to exhibit, put us in art exhibits in high school. Of course, they were citywide and regional exhibits, and in the 60s, we were not appreciated or wanted at the exhibits. They were, this was the beginning of the integration. We supposed to have been integrated by the 60s, but we were not welcome on the art scene at that time. So there has been a lot of incidents, a lot of mistreatment at some early exhibits. But that was just a part of the landscape at that time. But I never stopped exhibiting, and I credit that teacher. Not only did he teach me how to exhibit and do my introduction to acrylic paints, but he would ride me around town and show me large work that he had done, like billboards and hand-painted signs, and just to show me that, you can make money doing this. So he was a very good influence. And then when I went to Federal City, I was fortunate enough in D.C. to meet some artists and have art instructors who were really top of the line. And so they helped me quite a bit, even though when I finished school, I kind of clashed in the finish because I had gone back home. I had started art galleries and I had taught art classes, and I was quite experienced when I went back the last time. But nonetheless, I did pick up techniques and things that have helped me along, and the ability to convey. Now, one thing I take pride in is my teaching, my art teaching, which I will start tomorrow going back to school, and some of the good product that I've gotten out of my students over the years.
What is your inspiration keeping to pursue your passion as an artist?
One thing, I think that all God-given gifts should be, you appreciate the gift and you realize that the gift is for those around you. It's for the greater good of the culture. It's much necessary as far as our people are concerned, because, as an artist, I can clearly say art is not in the mainstream of all black people's thoughts. Survival, just their day-to-day struggles sometimes keep the common person from focusing on art, so sometimes artists can exist in a vacuum. But I'm motivated to let the healing qualities of art, just like music has healing qualities, art can too. I put the art in the neighborhood. I'm not all that concerned about a lot of wealth. Rewards come with it, but I'm motivated by the response I get, and I'm sort of on a mission. And I have a lot of energy, even at my age now, where I'm a kind of driven person. I have a lot of still goals and projects at this stage of my life. So I'm just a driven person, and I focus on my art. I still dabble in music and a few other creative pastimes. But I'm just, like I said, I'm just a driven person, and I like doing things, and not just sitting back, but initiating projects that benefit other people, especially the youth.
Who are some of your favorite artists?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think the first one that really hit me was Charles White, who my high school teacher introduced me to, and I sort of patterned after him with his drawings and some of the strength of his drawings, the way he depicted black people. And then Aaron Douglas and quite a few of those artists of the Harlem Renaissance era. When I was 10 years old, I spent the summer in Philadelphia with my grandfather. His niece bought a painting out of the basement, and she told me that William H. Johnson, he's a very renowned artist, who was her uncle, did this painting. And I'm sure you know that William Johnson's style was sort of folk art. And I didn't know enough to appreciate that style at the time. And I said, I can do that. That's stick people. Sort of in the style of Jacob Lawrence, who also influenced me in art. And then William Tanner with the banjo player. I lived in Newport News, going to Hampton University Library and being able to see that, because they housed that painting. It's a good 12 feet high, the banjo player by William Tanner. So those early influences. Also, fortunate enough to spend summers in cities. Like I used to go to New York and spend summers, or either Philadelphia. In New York, I would get on the subway, even at a very early age, and go to Manhattan and go to the Guggenheim Museum and the Museum of Modern Art. And I've stood in front of some of the greatest works of art, like the Pieta by Michelangelo, just having that experience. And I know that had a lot to do with keeping me out of trouble, to just sort of be absorbed by what I love doing and having that kind of experience when I went to those galleries and museums in New York and Philadelphia.
Where do you get your ideas or muses for your subjects?
My love for music kind of fuels almost a third of my art. I kind of smack myself for painting so many music-related and dance related. I had a dance troupe, so a lot of my art is about the arts. But then there's the history piece. I make sure that I get some historical scenes that are in books, because people don't deal with books too much anymore, that I paint them and exhibit them. I have, Birmingham 1965 with the kids being water hosed. I have kids linked arm in arm in Birmingham also that year with the state troopers behind them. I have the guy Gordon who had the lashes on his back on display right after the slavery period. I have all kind of civil rights and black history figures as subjects for my paintings. And then also, aside from just the history, then I do the Afrocentric. A lot of art with African design and African print and African musical instruments and things of that nature. So I have these categories. And then the spiritual side, I like to do a lot of biblical-related pieces and spiritual-leaning pieces that make people reflect and think, too. I'm actually having a ball. It's feast or famine sometimes, but you realize when you're doing what you call to do and you get involved in it and you want to be better, you want to make the next painting better than the last painting every time you touch it. You're really rich regardless of what's in your pocket. So I feel that way and try to spread it.
What piece that you have created most represent you?
Now, there's a piece that's in the art gallery. It's called What's Going On, Part 2. And it's one of the last pieces I did. It has Marvin Gaye's picture on it, staring dead at you. I mean, the picture's strong. And that dominates the picture about about 2/5 of the painting. But on the other side of the painting, and what it represents is what's going on now. I mean, Marvin Gaye asked that question in the 70s, early 70s, but it's a question that still that's not ever answered. Some of the things he sung about still persist. So on this painting, I have the January 6th insurrection depicted on this painting with the Capitol and the wall in front of the Capitol and groups of people scaling the wall. That's in one section of the painting. I have Breonna Taylor on that painting, and I have George Floyd's face on that painting, and I have Trayvon Martin's face on that painting. I also have, and I caught this in my neighborhood in the area I live in D.C., I caught a guy sitting on a metal box nodding off of heroin. I mean, he was nodding so hard, his head was at a 180-degree angle, parallel to the sidewalk. But I caught him, and I put him on there because this is what Marvin Gaye was asking, what's going on? I also have on that picture a man walking with a Uzi. You don't see anything on him but his short pants and from his chest down and that Uzi in his hand. That represents the black-on-black crime. So even though that's a poignant picture and some people don't want to look at it, I have pleasant pictures. I have pictures of flowers, and I do get into my art for art's sake. I love doing still lifes, and I like doing floral arrangements, and I like doing cityscapes, and I like doing all the, landscapes. I get great joy out of being in nature and painting nature. But my chief mission is that kind of piece, and I think that piece encapsulates. Also, that's going to be a series. There's so much going on that I'm already working on What's Going On Part 2. And Marvin is always prominent in the piece, a different shot of him in this piece, and just an update on some of the things that's going on. Just fulfilling the role of art as vehicle for awareness, just like music can be. It can be a vehicle for destruction. It can be a vehicle for healing and awareness.
Is technology a part of your medium to create art?
No, I try to be as natural. If you ever saw those movies, those futuristic movies where technology had taken over, and then you have hiding in the corner these resistors who try to live the old way, who still listen to music and still have art hanging in their walls and all of that. I'm more, I guess, where technology is concerned, I'm a resistor. I do just what I need to do to get by. I prefer getting on the bus sometimes, going downtown and pay a bill just to have the human experience of being on the bus. All kind of things can happen on the bus here in D.C. It's just such an interesting getting out in the air. I mean, things that people are morphing behind this technology, and I don't want to get on any kind of bandwagon, but I don't use it as far as my art. Now, even in the murals, I've done a few murals in D.C., pretty large works too, and I'm probably the only muralist left to hand paint. I don't care how large it is. I roll out some things, and I am going to get into spraying large areas. I guess that's as technical as I'm going to get. But I use, in blowing up the murals, I use mathematics, algebra, geometry, to do the ratio of a piece that I might design, 11 by 14 inches, to blow it up 30 by 50 feet. So it's all old school.
What is right or what is wrong in the world of art that you want to bring attention to?
Oh, my goodness. The struggles that real artists go through. From the early times when me and my friends were treated very, very harshly in the 70s and 60s, exhibiting. It's like the thing is, you don't belong. You don't belong here. What are you doing? Black people don't paint pictures. What are you doing here? And all of that vitriol, and sometimes it was expressed as vitriol, But you just press on and just continue.
What advice would you like to give to young artists?
Oh, don't give up. And definitely use the technology on your side for self-promotion. It's a great self-promotion tool. My daughter has me on Instagram. And so whenever someone wants to look at my work, I always have a site that they can go to that's hashtag Jerome Johnson, the artist. And a lot of people do even more as far as self-promotion. My daughter is also an artist, a very, very, very good artist. As a matter of fact, me and her hand-to-hand combat competition with each other, always talking mess to each other and bragging about who's the best. She uses technology, and I say this to young people, you have an advantage of self-promotion now where you don't have to depend on these sedity galleries. The last question you asked about the state of art today, I was told once when I tried to get my work in a gallery that, yes, you're talented, but what does talent have to do with it? Look at music. Music has gotten very gimmicky. A lot of youth now don't know how to harmonize. Basic classic elements of what music is are being lost. You can spit lyrics, as they say, and you can rhyme. The depth of your musical training and the discipline that it takes to really do music and to do art is devalued. I would say that many realms are dumbed down nowadays. Art is definitely dumbed down, where if you're expressing something or if you paint too well, you're intimidating to much of the art scene. I see artists taking it to the streets. They're not concerned about the fact that galleries barely show. You can't get a gallery show. There's so many strings attached and so much politicizing and control in the art scene today. I learned that a person who I know, I'm not to judge people's art because I appreciate art on all levels, but there are some people spitting out pure junk, trash, passing it off as art. It's like the emperor's new clothes, and people embrace that person, and that person gets promoted, whereas I've seen artists that actually have to take their art to the street. I saw a young brother recently painting on the median strip of a busy boulevard here in D.C. He was painting a portrait. He was so good that I hollered out of the car and talked to him for a second. But I said, he's going to get some hits out here because he's that good. I see artists taking it to the streets as one of the means. I do it. I set my art up. Some of the main areas of the black community, Anacostia in D.C., there's a landmark on Martin Luther King Avenue called the Big Chair. And on that Martin Luther King and V Street, all before the pandemic in particular, I set up almost like a pop-up art gallery out there, made decent money and had great conversation and interaction. And that's what's missing in the technology world, too, that I put myself out there for that conversation and interaction and human contact. But as far as where art is, it holds a lot of promise because a lot of these young youth coming up now are very culturally aware, and they are going back to their roots. And some of my best customers are this up-and-coming generation now. Art is strong. It has fought the good fight. It has endured the era where we were almost invisible. I mean, and that was the case in the 70s and the 80s with a few exclusive galleries. One thing I lament is that art galleries in the cities do not survive like they used to. Even in Washington, there are very few African American art galleries, if any. There's one in Prince George's County that I know of, but it's a shame that I can't think of one. I can think of the corners that are now, that used to have art galleries, black art galleries that are not there anymore, but none in the city. So the one that I'm affiliated with in Hampton, Virginia, is like a dinosaur of the art world and a gym where the normal, regular black artists don't have to have a big name or anything, just a desire to exhibit your work and to fulfill the obligations of the gallery, of course. That one in Hampton, Virginia, and I hope that at some point you can give a plug to them. Art Central in Mellon Street in Hampton, in Phoebus section of Hampton, Virginia. This is where I show my work and several other artists. It's like an arts co-op there.
So I applaud your efforts and that you are teaching. You have a message that you know has to be received and given. Yeah, you old school.
Oh, indeed. Old school, but being around youth all the time, I'm up with everything.
Oh, yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think they're going to require some training of me. And not just me, but, the technologies are woven. I did master it enough to do a virtual class, a couple of incidents during the COVID, a couple of stretches. Yeah, we old school, but we have to grab it,
We have to be part of it.
I think a lot of artists are and should be on a mission not to let technology take over art. There was once a time when people were so bullish on the technical side, there was an article called The Death of Painting. That was in the 80s. They were so bullish. And even when I was at UDC finishing up, there was a clash between the, what do I call them? But basically, you had the technical art side, graphic arts, and you had the fine art side. And there was this kind of philosophical tension sort of between the two, and it's like, y'all are the past and we're the future, In a 10-year or 20-year window of some new advancements, you can't throw out the tried and true, and the education that goes along with it. As some people call it the classical education, and that doesn't refer to just Greece and Rome, but there's a way to teach foundations in art and music. And when you skip those and come up with these dumbed-down versions of art, and I think that's where old school people who still have the energy are so important to this generation, is to teach them their hands-on and the techniques and have them grow step by step instead of technological shortcuts to everything,
Well, Mr. Johnson, I didn't want to keep you long, but this has been a real pleasure. I hope to meet you and also see more of your work. I've been a great admirer of your work for a very long time, mistakenly thinking that someone else was responsible for the body of work. And to find out after these many decades that I had the wrong person is kind of embarrassing. Yeah. It's embarrassing, but I'm glad to know the real deal here.
So, but I'm telling you, the person that you thought was me, what you saw in his home was so many pieces of my artwork that he's purchased from me over the years. He's my brother, but he's been one of my biggest supporters. He doesn't just take work from me. He said, man, how much you want for it? Bam. And he loves my work. I guess anybody going in his house with not just my art, but primarily my Jerome Johnson art exhibit there.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So I'm hoping to meet you in person, and as I say, to see more of your art. So that being said, I'm gonna let you go. And,
all right.
And I thank you so much, and good luck in your in this new school year.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a blessed day.
You too, sir.